Hi, I'm super excited to have you on today. This is Katie. She is the owner of Kate's Safe and Sweets Bakery. And I would love to just have you start off and talk about your diagnosis and how you found out that you first had allergies and then what you're doing today.
Sure. So my business is Kate Safe and Sweet. I started it about 18 months ago. And I actually am not the one with food allergies in my family. Both of my children, my daughter is 7 and my son is 3.5. Both of my children have food allergies. And the reason behind starting it was for my daughter initially, and I was actually pregnant with my son upon like thinking of this idea and thinking that we needed something safe, and then later him being diagnosed with food allergies when he was about 18 months old. So it kind of led me on an even more bigger passion because both of my children had food allergies. My daughter was diagnosed at a very young age. When she was just a few months old, we knew something wasn't right. I was breastfeeding and apparently was eating a ton of the things that she was allergic to. She had severe eczema. She wouldn't sleep at night, a lot of gas and tummy issues. So we saw a lot of specialists really early on. And, at 3 months old, we kind of knew something wasn't right. And then we started an elimination diet. So basically, taking foods out of my diet, keeping a food journal and seeing what she was reacting to. And, we initially were like, okay, dairy came up first. And then we tried like gluten-free and wheat-free. And she seemed, not to really have any significant change with that. So I would add that back in. And then I would slowly take things in and out. So we really were able to determine a few of her allergies that way. And then around 9 months old, we figured it out through months of journey that she was definitely allergic to eggs because I would eat eggs and she would have an eczema reaction within a few hours after breastfeeding of me eating it. So we kind of knew. So around 9.5 months, she was officially tested by an allergist, and she had little pricks on her arm. And obviously, 9-month old, they could only do a little bit because she's so tiny. But some of the things that actually surprised us was, peanut came up to be fairly large on the skin testing, and it wasn't one that we had thought about. My husband has OAS, which is oral allergy syndrome, but he is not anaphylactic to any foods, and certainly was fine with peanuts. So it wasn't one that we thought she was allergic to. So at that time, we were told to avoid all nuts because they could only test for a few, and we weren't really sure. And we would do further testing when she was a little bit older. And so we basically we had to avoid, I think it was 7 of the top 8 allergens from my diet. And then as we were slowly doing food introduction, trying to see which ones we could introduce safely when she was older. At 11, so we were sent home with that appointment around 9.5 months. I was sent home with the prescription for epinephrine. First time mom, first time really dealing with food allergies. So it was really like, I recall the day like it was yesterday. I remember exactly where we went to get the prescription filled. I called my parents, my siblings, texting like, I think our life's going to be really different. She's got, at least now we had an answer. So I think, that kind of was obviously very helpful to have that answer. And continue on as we're feeding her new foods at that time. At 11 months old, I gave her a dime-sized piece of kiwi. So, a kiwi fruit. And it wasn't something, I didn't think anybody could be allergic to it. Again, I was new to this. I just knew of really the top 8, and you could be allergic to other things, but I never thought a child or a person could be allergic to a fruit. And she went into severe anaphylaxis at 11 months old. There was no doubt in my mind that we would have lost her if we hadn't had the epinephrine. And I turned my back to put something in the refrigerator, and I turned back, and I was dumbfounded. It's the typical reaction you see like on a movie. You see the swollen eyes, you see the puffiness, the lips, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I think this is a food allergy reaction. And I knew it was a new food because I was keeping a journal. I at the same time, I was like, I think this is a food allergy reaction. My husband had just left. I texted him. I said, you need to get back right away. I called my parents, who happened to live next door. at the time. And my father has some medical training background. He rushed over, and all of this transpired. And we gave her the epinephrine, and basically that's the day that it really sunk in of how severe food allergies can be. um, it to this day, it's a moment that I never want to relive, but I tell the story because the epinephrine definitely saved her life. There's no doubt in our minds, but also to tell the story that individuals can be allergic to more than those top 8 that we're all used to seeing. So that's really the intro to our diagnosis. We since discovered she had food allergies to 8 foods. She currently is now allergic to 4. So we're kind of we're getting there as she's getting older and outgrowing. We don't know that she'll ever outgrow her kiwi allergy. Her tests are very significant, and maybe at some point we'll do treatment for it. So that's kind of my intro. And then my son, we keep an allergy free household of her allergens. And when he was, at some point, my doctor was like, you're gonna have to start introducing your son to, peanuts and eggs, even though, his sister's allergic. And, it's a scary moment. I actually did my peanut introduction to my son in the office under an allergist. We basically did an in-office food challenge when he was about 10 or 11 months old, with the supervision of my allergist, because I was too scared to do it at home. Because I just feared it. And I've never attempted to feed him kiwi. I don't know that I ever will. I said he can eat that when he's an adult, because I can't do that. But he's 3.5 now. And then when he was we started egg. I remember buying eggs, which was really scary and really crazy. My daughter was 5, so old enough to not go into the refrigerator to touch them. But, I bought them. And when she was at school one day, I made some scrambled eggs and I fed him, and he was okay. And then the next week I feed him a second dose, and he has an allergic reaction to the eggs, severe vomiting. And we were like, okay, I think he's allergic to eggs. So, we had him test it the following week, and it determined that he has a severe allergy to egg as well. So that's kind of my daughter was diagnosed. I kind of knew what to anticipate. And then, just kind of tiptoeing with my son. He has not tried every food out there yet. And there's some foods I'm really nervous about him trying, but especially in the times that we are now. Scary to go in a hospital setting at this point.
Yeah, no, that is really, really scary. And I definitely feel for you with the anaphylaxis. Like my best friend, when she was an infant, her mom was carrying her on a plane and was scrambling around like a nut bag, like a plastic bag.
Oh, yeah.
And they like had to emergency land the plane, went into anaphylaxis. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so scary. It's scary stuff.
Yeah,
Her mom
it
was.
really is. Yeah, I mean, and flying, flying for us is we've since moved cross country, so we're now living in California. We're from Philadelphia, and we have flown a few times to see my family and my parents, and it's been very stressful to say the least. But we're trying to get over our fear, and talk to certain airlines, and some are willing to make boarding announcements, and some are allow us to pre-board, so I can wipe everything down. We have special seat covers that go on when we go on an airplane. But yeah, it's very fearful for us to fly, for sure.
Absolutely. Can you now talk about your business, what you do now, and what your mission and vision is for it?
Sure. So as my daughter started getting older, we would start getting invited to all these different birthday parties. And, every birthday party obviously had to bring my own safe cupcake or a slice of cake for it. When your child has, especially an allergy to egg, because so much has egg in it, you go to a birthday party, every cake pretty much has egg, unless, the people hosting are vegan or they have allergies themselves. So, it wasn't, I really wasn't very trustful, I knew that most of or they would just get a birthday cake from a bakery, right? So that wouldn't be safe for us. So, I started on this journey. We would go to all these birthday parties, and when my daughters start getting a little bit older, she would recognize, in the beginning it was fine. She was young enough I was like, okay, you're just going to eat this and here's your safe food. I would bring safe food. I would bring a safe cupcake or slice of cake. And, in the beginning it was fine, but then as she got older, she started to recognize and realize that something was different, right? She was different because she was like, why can't I have that cake? And, that's when our education started. Really started reading a lot of books to her and trying to explain to her, about her allergies. But, as a 4 and 5-year-old, it's hard for them to grasp how severe it can be. So it really started that. And I would go to these parties and I'd say, why can't like there be like a safe mix out there or a safe, product out there that everyone could enjoy? Like that maybe I could make all the cupcakes for the party or the cake. And that's actually what I started doing. I would volunteer. I'd be like, hey, what's the theme of the party? Do you want me to bake a cake for you? Like, and it was great. Like, most people are like, are you sure? It's a lot of work and it's a hassle. I'm like, no, I will stay up all night. I will make this thing like as perfect can be, because it gave my daughter an opportunity to feel included and to eat what everybody else did. And I remember doing it. And the first time I did that, it was, a lot of work. And I think I was pregnant at the time. And I was like, oh gosh, staying up late in the kitchen. And, but, the joy on her face to actually feel included. And for me to actually take a step back and say, okay, she's going to be fine. She's not going to, if she reaches over and touches the cupcake next to her or the piece of cake next to her, she's not going to have a reaction. Like, it took a lot of stress off of me. And then, so that was really kind of kind of behind wanting to start it. And then I had a niece who in the meantime was diagnosed with celiac disease.
Yep.
So it became, okay, we got to be wheat free and gluten free and egg free and nut free and dairy free. And so and it was like all these boxes I had to check. And I was like, there was nothing out there. Everything I found had a label like, well, may contain peanuts or made on shared lines with dairy or made in a facility with tree nuts. And we just didn't trust it. There wasn't a product that we felt comfortable trusting. So I got in the kitchen and I started doing development. It took me almost 18 months to develop our mixes because I wanted them to taste just like a quote unquote real cake or real cupcake. And, sourcing from trusted suppliers was really important to me. So, every raw ingredient that we use in our mixes is sourced from top 8 or top 9 allergen free facilities. So it was really important to me to be able to kind of check all those boxes so that everybody could enjoy. Like if you're sitting around the table with someone who's has celiac disease next to someone who has an egg and a peanut allergy, next to someone who's dairy free and gluten free, everybody could enjoy it together. And that was kind of, the reasoning behind wanting to start it.
Right, which is so important because I was diagnosed with celiac as a child. So I definitely understand the burden that is taken upon you when you just don't have any inclusion in anything.
Right.
When you're eating things separate, it's nice that you have something to eat, but it's not the same because you don't feel like you're a part of it. You feel like you're very purposely kind of like left out. So that's awesome that you did that for your child. And like that makes a huge difference coming from somebody who went through that as a child.
It's hard because as a parent, it's like you just want them to feel included, and not necessarily they don't have to be the same. Like we are all individuals, we're all different, right? But and at 4 and 5 years old, you don't know, like you can't quite grasp, what it means, or to see like your child look at you. And, at some point it was actually a little funny because I don't know if funny is the right word, but I would take these really pretty cupcakes just for her and like these beautiful design cake slices. And the kids around the table would be like, I want that one. Like they wouldn't want the cake that was actually being served at the party or the cupcakes. They wanted because I would go all out and I made it a point, and early on I would contact the host and I'd say, okay, she has food allergies. I don't expect you to have anything safe for her. I don't want to put that burden on you. You have a lot to do. You're planning a party. And also, I don't necessarily trust everybody I meet, right? So, I would call them and I'd ask them for like the menu okay, they're going to have pizza and they're going to have carrots and they're going to have this. And then it was funny. One time I kind of was like, I just assumed they would have cake or cupcakes, and they actually served cookies. And I didn't have cookies. I was like, oh my God, I only have a cupcake. I felt so bad. And she's like, it's okay, Mom. We can bake. I said, yeah, we'll just bake cookies when we get home. But, you know, so now I would all call and ask very on, like, what the actual menu was,
Yeah.
down to like what kind of cake, what kind of flavor, what was the design. Like, she went to a party like 2 years ago, and it was a Trolls theme because Trolls was out, and like she was like, oh, and then like the mom sent me, she's like, here's the cake she's gonna get from, you know, the local grocery store bakery. And I was like, okay. So like I stayed up all night and I made it like tie-dye, like it was amazing. And the mom was like, I can't believe you did that. And I was like, you know what? I was like, as parents, I was like, you would do the same thing if you were in my shoes. Like, it's just what we do, you know, like that is, you know, and so, you know, and then it obviously became more than my children. I started a blog when my daughter was 1 because I wanted to learn more about allergies, and I started blogging about recipes and stuff. And I learned that there was a whole, you know, it wasn't just me, right? Like, there's this whole other sea of parents out there and children out there and individuals that, you know, just want to feel included and just want to be able to have something that's good tasting, and it can be done. Um, so that's kind of where we are now, I guess.
That's awesome. Transitioning to what it's like for your children to eat out. So obviously,
Yes.
you know, at parties we can control a little bit better, and now you've even created your own business around it. But what about when you go out to restaurants or when you go travel somewhere new? What is that experience like for you and your kids?
Um, Gosh, in one word, it probably would be scary. You know, not to really laugh after that, but you know, we have 2 safe restaurants we trust, and one is a chain, and the other one is sort of a local chain, but we've talked to them plenty of times. We call, and it's a pizza place, and like they know, okay, we don't cut her pizza. We don't my daughter still has a pineapple allergy, so we don't, you know, there's only a couple pizza places we trust because a lot of them have pineapple, and this one doesn't have pineapple on their menu. So, you know, we really, it's very fearful and very scary. We try to be very, you know, when we go to restaurants, even the ones that we frequent, which are the 2, we've obviously gone to other ones as well. We always ask to speak to the chef, if possible, you know, and some of these restaurants, like we've done trips to Disneyland, and that's like our favorite place to go because the chef will come out and like really be accommodating, you know, and they'll let us like order off menu and be like, okay, she wants, you know, this with the side of just broccolini plain, and then just mashed potatoes with no butter, like very accommodating to do that. But you know, it can be really difficult, especially when you have allergies outside of the top 8, for like a waiter or waitress to really understand, you know, the magnitude of, you know, if there is a mistake, it could be very serious to us. But at the same token, you know, to try to open and spread our wings a little more so that our children can still feel like they're experiencing the normalcy of what it is to go out and have a meal. And obviously now in these times, it's a little less normal to do that, but you know, on a normal basis, but to be able to sit down and also to give myself and my husband a break. Like, you know, sometimes like I just don't feel like cooking anymore, or, you know, and or I just need a break from cooking tonight and cleaning up. Like, I just want to go out and enjoy the company of, you know, my spouse and my kids. But it can be really scary. And, you know, we have chef cards too. Like, I've laminated cards that say, you know, my children, or my, you know, I just say my children because we wouldn't serve my son, although my son is not allergic to peanuts. I wouldn't like we he eats a peanut puff in a controlled environment, like 2 times a week. Like, I scrub them down. Like, it's this whole process I have to do because I don't want him to become allergic to it. But anyway, you know, I have a chef card saying my children are allergic to this, and this, and it talks about cross contamination. And you know, how, they can't use shared utensils, and we can't have any foods that include any of these. So I really have like this thorough thing, thorough enough that someone will actually read it. It's not paragraphs long, that we give to the waiter or waitress, and try to talk to the chef as well. But yeah, it can be really scary. One mistake can lead us into the hospital, and a reaction.
Absolutely. And how does it make you feel that there is a lack of resources for you to be able to see this information in advance or just get some ease of that experience?
I think it's very frustrating, obviously. I think there should be more transparency. There are so many individuals out there that are, leading lifestyles that require that transparency. It's a life or death. Obviously, there are individuals out there that have preferences. They're dairy free because they want to be, not because they need to be. But there are so many individuals out there that, it can be a situation that, can turn really scary, and, can lead to some sort of reaction if they're not transparent. To have something ahead of time and to be able to like look through, which is one of the reasons when we do travel to Disneyland in a normal time, it was always nice because we could like see the menus ahead of time and be like, okay, well, maybe we could get this, or we'd walk up to the building and be like, the menu will be posted, right? We're in an amusement park, and be like, okay, this looks like it would be safe, and she would eat this, or he could eat this, and it would be we dream of a day like when we could go to like a place that served like brunch, because both of my kids are allergic to eggs. They've never been to like a diner or like a brunch place. You think of, but I'm sure there's places out there that would be accommodating. It's just, where are they, and how do you know ahead of time? Like, I'm not going to disappoint my children and drive them to 5 different restaurants only to find out, oh, we can't eat out, because none of these would be safe to her. And we have sat down at restaurants and got up and left because they weren't able to accommodate us, or their chicken is like one was, well, our chicken is coated a while ago in the egg, and it sits in the egg, and we don't have any other chicken to give her. Like, those situations, like, okay, this isn't going to be safe for us. Or if like a server hesitates and they're like, yeah, it should be fine. And, you get some of that. Sometimes you're just like, you don't have any confidence? No, it's not worth it.
It's scary when somebody has that reaction to it, because you're like, okay, well, you can't be kind of sure. You have to be fully sure. Like, this is life or death situation here.
Yeah. And going out to eat and enjoying a meal with your family is, it's such a luxury for us. Like, we don't do it now, but when we did do it, we would try to, move out of our comfort zone and maybe do it like once every 3 months or something. And just be like, okay, we can do this. And we had another chain that we trusted, which was Red Robin, but they closed down near us, and we were so disappointed. Like, we were like, no. So like, if we travel again, that will be like on our list of places. Like, we've done, when we moved to the West Coast from the East Coast, we drove cross country. My daughter was 22 months at the time, so almost 2. And we kind of mapped out like where we were going to stop. Like, it was like, okay, there's a Red Robin here, and we trust Chipotle here. Like, we would kind of map out the different places that we could trust. And then, we would find a grocery store, and I bought like my rice cooker and my grill, like in the hotel, making food and stuff. But, we kind of would like path our journey to where we could stop and actually eat at somewhere that we would trust.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
I love that you were talking about transparency, because that is our motto at Macro Menu, is transparent eating for all. And pretty much like where we're starting, what we have now, is we are creating these types of menus and resources for you to be able to look at in advance, to have detailed information about what a kitchen does. So each allergen lists its own process for like where it goes in the kitchen, what to be aware of, if it goes on any grill top, fryer, things like that, so that you understand like where it's located in the kitchen and have like an understanding of the process that they take to mitigate cross contact. And then we also are working with restaurants to either just link to their allergy menus, or actually for some we're even building allergy menus where we specify all of the top 8 allergens. And that will eventually transition into ingredient menus. So we work with restaurants to actually have ingredients for all the dishes to be able to filter down to the ingredient level, because you probably know more than anyone, like kiwi for example is a really really niche allergen that might be hidden in some things that you just like would not think are in dishes. And so by bringing it down to a micro level, the ingredient level, then not only like can you use it to actually determine what's really in the dishes, but then the waiter like has more information as well to be able to guide you on the menu. So that's kind of like what we're doing in the vision with macro menu. So how would having those types of resources in advance or at the restaurant change your eating out experience and frequency with your family?
Oh, I mean, it would improve it like tenfold. I mean, without a doubt. Like, I mean, to have that information ahead of time and the transparency. And I think a lot of it too, the drive from coming from something that you're doing is that you're making the restaurants think about this a little more, right? So they're actually giving it more thought and like realizing, I think some of it, is probably the education portion of just, hey, did you realize that if you cook this on this, that actually cross contaminates with that? Like I think a lot of it, that education piece is so important. And I know probably mainline chefs are probably educated somewhat to this, but probably some of them don't realize how scary and how these things can actually unfold if something went wrong. So I think that's amazing, and it's it would be something that would allow us to like you said, like kind of vet out a menu, like, oh hey, this looks like it could be safe to us, or this has dairy free alternative cheese, and this one offers egg free waffles, or so you actually can see ahead of time what kind of offerings they have. And again, we do order off menus sometimes, so that's always is fun. But actually to see like, oh, could you make this and this, combine this dish and that dish, we would love to to do that. But yeah, I do think increasing, from what you're doing, it will actually increase the educational piece, so that the overall knowledge of the kitchen staff improves, and then that in its turn leads to greater kitchen management, and then down to serving families like ours. We long for the day when like we could just be a normal family and go out to eat like once a day, I mean, not once a day, like once a week, like like that's, as a child, like usually we would go out to eat once a week, or we order our favorite pizza place. But to be able to have that transparency would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely does increase awareness, because even just me going into restaurants and doing these kitchen walkthroughs, a really good example was pan sprays. You don't
Yeah,
always think that pan sprays have soy in them, and so I
yeah.
would come to restaurants and be like, let me just check it, let me just look at the back.
Ah,
They're like, oh, it doesn't contain soy. I was like, let me just look at the back of it. And then I looked at the back of it, like most of them do contain soy. So then they were like, oh my God, I had no idea. So even just like bringing that awareness to
yeah,
what's in their ingredients is super helpful, because
right.
not all chefs on the line always know the
Yes,
full amount of
right.
ingredients in their food, because they're getting a lot of their foods from like outside manufacturers. And
Yes.
I know that as like a business owner, like you don't, unless you really really vet those sources, you don't always like know the ingredients on those items. So having that transparency not only brings the awareness to you and your family, which gives you a sense of security, but then
Right.
so like the chef now can better serve you.
Mm-hmm. No, you're exactly right. And yeah, that's kind of, you said it a lot better than I did, but yeah, that's
Oh, you
exactly what I was trying to.
you're kind of like what you're saying.
But yeah, that's exactly, yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to say. So yeah, I just think, and then overall, even, the chefs having a little more confidence
Yeah.
and, just educating, especially like if they have new employees that come in and stuff, like educating them a little more about it. And again, it trickles down because to me, like, you educate someone and then they may take it to somebody else and, then it just also, ultimately also spreads awareness.
Right.
And, I think it also helps spread some empathy
Yeah.
because, I think there are a lot of things that, even prior to becoming a parent that I took for granted. I kind of knew, of allergies, but I really wasn't in the world, the allergy world, so to speak. So, there's a lot of things that I now look back and I realize I took for granted, and it's not because I was ignorant or uneducated or didn't want to learn. It was just that I was never exposed to it, right? So, I didn't have any children or friends growing up that had allergies, and my family didn't, and I didn't, my siblings didn't. So, it was something we never really, I never really gave much thought to
Right.
until, I had children and, my life kind of, did a 180 and it became, what I was fully ingrained in. And, I worked for a food allergy nonprofit for almost 2 years before I started this business. And that really gave me a big sense of, the bigger picture of how serious this can be and how much education and awareness is still needed, around this. So again, it kind of all trickles down to creating, more knowledge and more empathy and more understanding of what we live through on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's so many restaurants I know out there that can cater to allergies. I've been to restaurants where I've been like, look, you can serve me. I believe in you. But it's just like the lack of
Yeah.
confidence because
Yep.
they lived with it, so they don't want to make somebody sick. I think it's totally
Mhm.
understandable. You're scared of somebody's life is at stake. So
Right.
instilling that confidence is really, really important as well. And I love that you brought that point up because it makes the restaurant feel a sense of security.
Mhm.
We can do this, we can serve people like this, which allows them to have more customers, and then everybody,
Yes.
it's kind of like a mutually beneficial experience.
I completely agree. I mean, if you, I don't know about you, but like if we go to like this one pizza place that we trust, like that is like we've been there. I can't tell you how many times. Like you just create, a repeat customer, right? Like, and then you tell friends and or you put it on an app, like you write a review and then other people see it. So it really can, open up, more customers and more business for that particular business. But, I think one of the things that really, I don't know if the word gets me though, but sometimes like you'll see labeling and they put like precautionary label, like, oh, well, and then like you call them or you talk to them like, well, we kind of put it on there because we're not really sure. And, and I hate when companies do that. And that's one of the things when I was doing my labeling and my products, I said, no, I don't want anything like wishy-washy, and I think that's what you get with sometimes because they don't have that confidence or they're really nervous about it. And it's like, no, you need to vet out all your suppliers and build a relationship with them so that you can feel confident in feeding individuals with dietary restrictions and allergies and stuff.
Right, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I'm sure you particularly know that side of things because you
Yeah.
know.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, do you have any last thoughts or anything you want to tell people to inspire them going through this journey?
um Last thoughts or inspirations, I think a lot of it is creating, I think we've created a community out there, and not to be, if you're just newly diagnosed or not really sure where to turn for help, is to like find some of the bloggers and find some of the community out there online, because there's a huge community out there that's willing to help.
Mhm.
And I've been in this journey 7 years now, and I learned stuff all the time still. But when my daughter was first diagnosed, I remember how scared I was, and um wasn't sure, like I was I was really bent on like, she's never going to go to school. Like, I can't trust somebody else with her. Like, how will I be able to have somebody watch her? And since, I've worked through those things, and she has a 504 plan at school, and, she doesn't eat, the food at school. I always pack everything. So, there's ways to, for your child to safely live and to still be included in these things, like school and parties and stuff. But, it may just take a little, precautionary, some, doing some things ahead of time, or asking more questions, or prepping her a safe meal or a safe cupcake for a party. But to not feel like your child can't be included in these events just because of their allergies. So, we're all about inclusiveness, and it's really important to me.
Yeah, and I think that's such a strong message, because being somebody that lived through that, even to this day, it impacts me. It's a mental toll that was taken on me. You're just, oh, I just like, I want to like kind of be in the shadows. Like, I just want to like be normal.
No,
So that's a really, really impactful message. And I think like a really great one for anybody that is a parent with children going through food allergies.
right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kayla. I can't wait to see more from your business, and hopefully you'll spread
Yeah,
all throughout the United States, because that's
that
what we
is
need.
the hope.